Good morning. Today we are going to start 10th chapter. It's a film review. The film is Today I Became a Woman. This film is directed by very famous Iranian director Marcy Meshkini. Let us start with Marcy Meshkini. Marcy Meshkini, born in 1969 in Tehran, Iran. She is the wife of celebrated Iranian director Mohsen Mekamalbaf. She studied cinema in Mekamalbaf Film School for 8 years. Her first film, The Day I Became a Woman, attended the Critics' Week category in Venice International Film Festival in 2000 and won 3 awards from that festival. Through her first film, Today I Became a Woman, Marcy proved her talent. She won Venice International Film Award. She got 3 awards from this festival. Marcy Meshkini's second film, Stray Dogs, competed in the Best Film category at Venice Film Festival in 2003 and received 2 awards from the festival. Her film has received many international awards across the world. Her second film is Stray Dogs. She also won 2 awards at Venice Film Festival in 2003. In addition to that, she also won so many international awards. She has worked as assistant director in The Apple, The Blackbirds, At 5 in the Afternoon, and Two-Legged Horse by Samira Mekamalbaf, as well as collaborating in several recent films by Mohsen Mekamalbaf. She is a blessed wife and mother. That's why she has got the opportunity to work with her husband and also daughter. She has associated with her daughter Samira in her films The Apple, The Blackbirds, At 5 in the Afternoon, and Two-Legged Horse. She has also got the opportunity to work with her husband Mohsen. Marcy Meshkini is also the scriptwriter of the award-winning film Buddha Collapsed Out of Shame by Hannah Mekamalbaf, which has won the Crystal Bear from Berlin Film Festival, Grand Jury Award from San Sebastian, and has been nominated for the Best Asian Film Award from Hong Kong Film Festival. We can see that she also worked as a scriptwriter in the film Buddha Collapsed Out of Shame. It is directed by Hannah Mekamalbaf. Through this work, she won the Crystal Bear from Berlin Film Festival, Grand Jury Award from San Sebastian, and we can see that she has been nominated for the Best Asian Film Award from Hong Kong Film Festival. Then I want to speak about her first film, The Day I Became a Woman. The Day I Became a Woman is still more evidence of how healthy and alive the Iranian cinema is, even in a society we think of as closed. I already told you it was directed by Marcy Meshkini and produced and written by her husband Mohsen Mekamalbaf. It is a film-making family. Their daughter Samira directed The Apple in 1998, and last year her Blackbirds was an official selection at Cannes. Through this first film of Marcy, The Day I Became a Woman, we can see the evidence of how healthy and alive the Iranian cinema is. She belongs in a film making family. I already told you about her husband and daughter. Her first film, The Day I Became a Woman, it was produced and written by her husband Mohsen. She also got the opportunity to associate with her daughter's films. I think all of you remembered well who is her daughter and which are the films. When her daughter was an official selection at Cannes, she was just below 20. Unlike the heroines of this film, the women of the Mekamalbaf family can think about the day they became directors. In fact, Iranian women have a good deal more personal freedom than the women of many other Islamic countries. Actually, in film, she speaks about the women who denied their freedom. But actually, in her life, she has her personal freedom. Let us start the film review, The Day I Became a Woman. I told you we can see that there are 3 stories in this film. The Day I Became a Woman links together 3 stories from Iran, the 3 ages of women, involving a girl on the edge of adolescence, a wife determined not to be ruled by her husband, and a wealthy widow who declares, "Whatever I never had, I will buy for myself now." I already told you this film is a story of 3 women. First, she speaks about the life of a girl. She is just 9 years old. Then she speaks about the life of a married woman. Finally, she speaks about the life of a aged woman. She is very wealthy. All 3 of the stories are told in direct and simple terms. One of the strengths of this film is that it never pauses to explain, and the characters never have speeches to defend or justify themselves. When we watch this movie, we can easily understand. She told this beautiful story by using simple terms. We can't see the characters' speeches to defend or justify themselves. They are so lacking in the psychological clutter of Western movies that at first we think they must be fables or allegories. And so they may be, but they are also perfectly plausible. Few things on the screen could not occur in everyday life. It is just that we are not used to seeing so much of the rest of everyday life left out. Even we have the doubt that it is fable or allegories. But there is no need to doubt it is. It is a perfectly believable story. She directs the story very well. The first story is about Hawa, a girl on her 9th birthday. As a child, she has played freely with her best friend, a boy. But on this day, she must begin to wear the chadar, the garment that protects her head and body from the sight of men. The film begins with the story of 9-year-old girl. She is Hawa. Today is her birthday. She turns 9. Before that, she has the freedom to play with her friend. Her friend is a boy. But when she turns 9, she is forced to wear chadar. What is chador? The garment that protects her head and body from the sight of men. And she can no longer play with boys. Her transition to womanhood is scheduled for dawn, but her mother and grandmother give her a reprieve until noon. A reprieve means postpone. I already told you today is her birthday. She is 9 years old. So today onwards, she will not get the permission to play with the boys. But her mother and grandmother give permission to play until noon, because Hawa was born at noon. So they already gave the permission to play with the boy until noon. They put an upright stick in the ground and tell her that when its shadow disappears, her girlhood is over. She measures the shadow with her fingers and shares a lollipop with her playmate. When her grandmother and mother give the permission to Hawa, they also put an upright stick in the ground. They also remind her when its shadow disappears, it's the time to finish your play with that boy. But we can see that Hawa is very smart and strong girl. She doesn't think about her womanhood. She starts to play with her friend. She also shares her lollipop with her friend. The little girl will miss her playmate, but trusts her mother and grandmother that she must, as they have modestly shielded herself from men who are not family members. Only the old grandmother, triumphantly heading her procession, seems free of the system, although she too has a habit of pulling her shawl forward over her head. Long after any man could be seduced by her beauty. The gesture is like a reminder to herself that she is a woman and must play by the rules. Hawa doesn't think about her womanhood because she knows it very well. Her mother and grandmother should protect her by others. Even we can see that grandmother is always pulling her shawl forward over her head. It shows she is a woman and must play by the rules. She also understands her friend is very busy. He wants to do the homework. Then we can see that at the exact time her mother and grandmother reach in the beach. They also remind her it's the time to stop her play with her playmate. We can see that her mother and grandmother bring chador. Actually, the chador symbolizes her transfer into young adolescence. I hope all of you understood the first story of Hawa. We can just go through the story of Hawa in brief. The first vignette centers around Hawa, a lively and stubborn girl whose childhood of freedom and independence is about to come to an end according to her family's understanding of Islamic law. Beginning at noon, the time of her birth 9 years ago, she must cloak herself in a chadar and curtail her close friendship with an orphan boy. We can see that Fatma Cheragh Akhtar, she acted as Hawa. The first brief description about Hawa, through that we can feel Hawa is a very strong and energetic girl. She has lost her freedom and independence when she turns 9. Beginning at noon, she is forced to wear chadar. She is also forced to cut her friendship with her playmate. But first, Hawa tells her grandmother and mother she wants to go out and play one last time. The little girl is given a stick to put in the sand in order to measure the sun's shadow and determine the appointed hour of her return. From this act, we can easily understand she is a very strong girl. She is ready to enjoy at noon with her playmate. On the beach, she trades her scarf for a fish toy to some boys who use it as a sail for their makeshift vessel. Then she eats a lollipop with her buddy who has been locked in his room to do homework. Hawa relishes every last moment of her childhood and in the true spirit of feminine spirituality, she lavishes her attention and joy on others. So we can see that Hawa enjoys till noon. She sells her scarf for a fish toy. We can see that some boys, they are playing. They are using this scarf as a sail to make fast their vessel. After that, she eats lollipop with her playmate. Then we also understood her playmate is busy to do his homework. Hawa enjoys every last moment of her childhood innocence. She spends her attention and joy on others. Then we are going to speak about the second story. The second episode begins with an image that first seems surrealistic but has a pragmatic explanation. A group of women, all cloaked from head to toe in black, furiously pedal their bicycles down a road next to the sea. The story begins with an image, but we can feel it is surrealistic. Surrealistic means dreamlike atmosphere. It is strange, dreamlike atmosphere. But definitely it has a realistic explanation. We can see that the second story starts by a group of women. They already wore cloak. What is cloak? Cloak means sleeveless outdoor overgarment that hangs loosely from shoulder. So the gang of women, they wore cloak from head to toe in black. We can see that they are extremely angry manner. They are riding the bicycles a road next to the sea. A ferocious man on horseback pursues one of the women, Ahu, who is in the lead. This is a women's bicycle race and Ahu's husband does not want her to participate. Then we can see that The lady who leads a group of women, her name is Ahu. Her husband follows her on a horse. He becomes very angry. He does not want his wife to participate in this cycle race. He shouts at her at first with solicitude and then with threats. She pedals on as the husband is joined by other family members who finally stop her forcibly. At first, the husband shouts at her. Then we can feel the solicitude. Solicitude means care. He speaks about her bad leg. But next, he starts to threaten her. But we can see that Ahu continues her cycle ride. But finally, the family members reach there. She is forced to stop her bicycle race. The second story revolves around Ahu, a young wife who is participating in a bicycle race with other women on a path that follows the seashore. It is a visually startling sight. A large group of cheddar covered figures seen close up and from the distance riding together, pushing past each other, slowing down, rushing, and then speeding up again. I already told you the second story starts with the story of Ahu. Shabnam Toloi acted as Ahu. It's a very beautiful sight to watch the cycle ride of a group of men who wore cloak. We can see that they take rest, they become slowing down, they start to speed up again. Ahu's angry husband appears on a horse and orders her to leave the race or he will divorce her. She disobeys his order and then is harassed by other tribesmen, by the mullah, and finally by her brothers. We already understood she was forced to stop her cycle ride because of her husband, relatives, and tribesmen. As stubborn as Hawa, she refuses to heed the warnings and threats of the men who want her to obey her husband. Finally, Ahu is compelled to stop riding her bicycle. Force, as happens so often in the course of women, carries the day. So we can see that the women like Ahu. In real life, some women are forced to stop their skill, their talents. We are going to speak about the third story. The third story begins like an episode from a silent comedy. As a young boy pushes a wheelchair containing an old woman who is alert as a bird. She directs him into stories where she buys things, a refrigerator, TV, tables, chairs, and soon she is at the head of a parade of boys pushing carts filled with consumer goods. The second story, when it begins, we feel that it's a silent comedy because an old woman, she is in a wheelchair, she is pushed by a young boy. She gives the direction to this boy. She buys a lot of things like refrigerator, TV, tables, chairs, etc. We learn she inherited a lot of money and plans to spend it while she can on all the things she couldn't buy while she was married. The scene concludes with a Fellinisque image. I will not spoil for you. It is the film's one excursion out of the plausible and into the fantastic, but the story earns it. We can see that this old woman gets a lot of money as hire. So she wants to buy a lot of things when she wanted to buy after her marriage. The third and final drama centers on an elderly and bent woman arrives via plane to the same seaside area. With plenty of money from an inheritance, she hires a boy to push her in a wheelchair to a very modern shopping mall where she purchases all the appliances, furniture, a refrigerator, an ironing board, bathtub, a washing machine, a stereo, makeup, and a batch of pots and pans and other goodies her heart desires. I already told you the third story is a story of an old woman. Aziz Sedeghi acts as an old woman. She also arrives the same seaside area where we meet Hawa and Ahu. We already identified a boy is pushing an old lady in a wheelchair. She buys a lot of things. Before long, they are followed by a host of children carrying all her packages. They take all these things to the beach where the old woman has them unpacked so she can find out what she has forgotten. When she and the boy return to the mall to exchange a teapot, the other kids on the beach have a ball playing with all the appliances. We can see that some boys also reach there to help this lady. At the moment, an old woman identified she missed one thing. So she and her helper, the boy who pushed her in that wheelchair, both of them go to the mall to purchase the teapot, to exchange a teapot. At the moment, the other boys who helped her, they started to open all the appliances. They started to play with all these things. So we can see the freedom they are enjoying. In the end, the elderly woman has the means to fulfill all her yearnings, but it is too late in life to do anything with all the things of Western success. In fact, the one concern that obsesses her is how her rooster will survive without the food and water she forgot to give him. Actually, an old woman, she wants to enjoy her life when she was young, but she couldn't do it. So, when she becomes an old woman, she gets the freedom. She also thinks about her cock. Without food and water, how it will live. When her new possessions are finally put aboard some rafts to be transported to her home, little Hawa stands on the shore watching with her grandmother and mother. Perhaps the old woman is an emblem of her own yearning or a vision of what her life will be like in the future. Either way, these three brief but poignant dramas will steal your heart with their unique mix of unvarnished simplicity and metaphoric richness. When the third story ends, we can see that an old woman starts her journey in a ship. At the moment, we can see that little Hawa, she is standing with her mother and grandmother on the seashore. She just looks at that ship. But an old woman gets the opportunity to leave. Iranian films are so regaling, watching them slowly unspool before our eyes. We are transported to a world where the emphasis is always upon everyday people struggling with emotions, restrictions, or some yearning that has seized their souls. There is no need for speeded up action, sequences, or special effects. Wizardry, since these are stories about the human heart and all of its turnings. Definitely, this Italian movie, it will force to think about the lives of many women around us. How the women are restricted. They are forced to live under the rules without chasing their dream. Marcy Meshkini's enchanting and sensuous film is a parable of three stages in the lives of Iranian women. It is a classic that will have universal appeal and special poignancy for women's groups who desire to use it as a resource to raise consciousness. So definitely when we go through these three stories of women, we will feel sadness for women's groups who desire to use it as a resource to raise awareness. It's the right time to think about women's life. We will meet in the next class with a new chapter. Thank you.